Have you ever walked into a conversation knowing exactly what you want to say, but then suddenly thinking, wait, is this polite? If that has ever happened to you, stay right here, because today we're going to unlock the secret to speaking politely in English, even at A1 or A2 level. And trust me, polite English is not about big words. It's about small choices that make a big difference.
And the amazing part is, anyone can learn this. You don't need advanced grammar or complicated expressions. You just need a few simple tools, and once you start using them, people will instantly feel more comfortable talking to you. Politeness isn't just language, it's connection.
Absolutely. So let's start simple. Leo, when learners think about polite English, they often imagine long, formal sentences. But polite English can actually be very short, right?
Exactly. Sometimes the shortest sentences are the politest. For example, excuse me, sorry, could you help me? These are simple, friendly, and work in almost every situation. You don't need to sound like a professor. You just need to sound thoughtful.
Yes, I think one of the biggest mistakes learners make is using commands without realizing it. Like saying, give me water, instead of, could I have some water? The meaning is the same, but the feeling is completely different.
Exactly. And tone matters too. When you say, give me, it can sound strong or demanding. But when you say, could I have? It sounds calm, soft, and polite. So here's something useful for beginners. Whenever you want something, start with, could I or can I?
That's great. And think about when we meet someone for the first time. A simple, nice to meet you is polite. But a more thoughtful version is, it's really nice to meet you. That one little word, really, makes the sentence warm.
Yes, politeness often comes from those small additions. Please, thank you, sorry, excuse me, could you, would you? I appreciate it. No problem. That's all right. Take your time. These are small, but they create big positive energy.
And one of my favorites for polite conversation is using softeners. For example, I think, maybe, I'm not sure, but I was wondering if, do you mind if? These help you express ideas without sounding too direct.
Right. If I say, you are wrong, that's very direct. But if I say, I'm not sure I agree, it's polite, gentle, and still expresses your opinion. The meaning stays, but the tone changes completely.
Let's do a little game. I'll say a direct sentence, and you change it into a polite version.
Perfect. Let's go.
Direct. Move your bag.
A polite version would be, could you move your bag, please?
Nice. Next one. Tell me your name.
Could you tell me your name?
Good. Last one. Stop talking.
I'm sorry. Could you stop talking for a moment?
Perfect. And notice something. Polite English often uses questions instead of commands. We turn the instruction into a request.
And that makes a huge difference. People respond better to requests than orders, even in everyday life. For example, if you need someone to wait, instead of saying, wait, you can say, just a moment, please. Same meaning, but softer.
Yes, and we should talk about polite listening, too. Because politeness isn't only about speaking, it's about how you respond while the other person is talking.
Exactly. Polite listeners use small phrases like, I see. That makes sense. Right. Oh, really? I understand. That's interesting. These show that you care. They keep the conversation warm and comfortable.
And one of the most powerful polite habits is asking follow-up questions. For example, how was your day? And when the person answers, you say, that sounds nice. What did you do after that? That second question shows interest.
Polite conversations are basically kindness in language form. A smile, a soft tone,
And a couple of gentle phrases can transform a simple conversation into a good moment for both people.
Let's give learners some real-life dialogues, something they can copy and use today.
Great idea. Let's start with a simple, polite conversation between two people who just met.
Hi, I'm Sara. It's really nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Leo. Nice to meet you too. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Simple, friendly, and warm.
Now let's do a polite request.
Excuse me, could you help me find this address?
Of course. Let me take a look.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Happy to help.
This is everyday politeness, easy but powerful.
And here's the dialogue where someone gives a polite opinion.
I'm not sure this color looks good on me.
I think it actually looks great, but maybe you could try a different shade if you want to explore options.
See how gentle that sounds? Not too strong, not too direct.
Exactly. Polite language is like emotional cushioning.
Another important part of polite conversation is knowing how to disagree politely. Because everyone disagrees sometimes, but it doesn't have to sound rude.
Right. Instead of, no, you're wrong, you can say, I see your point, but I feel a little differently. That's polite disagreement.
Or you can say, I understand what you mean, but I'm not sure I agree.
And if you want to be extra polite, you can add something positive first. For example, that's an interesting idea. I think I have a different view.
Beautiful. This helps avoid tension and keeps the conversation friendly.
Right. Another area learners struggle with is interrupting. But polite interrupting is possible. For example, you can say, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add something. Could I say something quickly?
Yes, and you can also use body language, like raising your hand slightly or leaning forward. But even in English alone, those short, polite phrases work well.
And what about ending conversations politely? Beginners often feel awkward.
Ending politely is easy. You can say, it was nice talking to you. I should get going now. Let's talk again soon. I hope you have a great day.
Those are perfect. They close the conversation in a warm and natural way.
Before we wrap up, let's give learners some polite phrases they can practice today.
Great idea. Could you help me with this? Would you mind waiting a moment? Sorry about that. Thank you, I appreciate it. Excuse me, may I ask something? That's interesting. I understand. I see what you mean. I'm not sure, maybe. Have a great day.
And when learners use these regularly, their conversations instantly become more smooth and more respectful.
Exactly. Politeness is a skill, and like any skill, it gets easier with practice.
Before we move into deeper examples, I want to highlight something many learners never notice. Politeness isn't only about what you say, it's about giving space. Sometimes being quiet for a second, listening carefully, and letting the other person finish is one of the politest things you can do.
Absolutely. Many learners feel nervous and rush their words. They interrupt without meaning to. But when you pause, breathe, and listen, the other person feels respected. Politeness is often invisible, but powerful.
And speaking of invisible politeness, tone plays a huge role. You can say the same sentence politely or impolitely, depending on how it sounds. For example, if I say, "Can you help me?" with a warm tone, it's polite. But if I say the same words with sharp energy, it becomes rude.
Exactly. Even a simple please can sound polite or annoyed, depending on the tone. Beginners should practice calm, slow speaking. Not too slow, not too soft, just warm and relaxed. That's the magic of polite conversation.
And smiling changes everything. Even though people can't hear a smile, they actually can. When you smile, your voice sounds lighter and more open. That makes your English automatically friendlier.
That's so true. And here's something useful. Polite English often uses we instead of you when giving suggestions. We could try this, or maybe we can look at it together. This makes communication feel cooperative, not bossy.
Yes, we is a politeness superpower. If you say, you should do this, it sounds strong. But if you say, maybe we can try this, it feels like teamwork. Beginners can use this trick instantly.
Another big part of polite conversation is showing understanding, even when you don't fully agree. For example, I see why you feel that way. Or, I understand your point. These sentences keep the conversation calm and positive.
And I think beginners often forget that polite conversation is not about perfect grammar, it's about kindness. Even with simple sentences, you can be very polite. Like, sorry, can you repeat that? Or, could you say that again, please? These are small but helpful.
Let's practice more polite transformations. I'll say the direct version this time, and you make it polite.
All right, let's do it.
Direct. Give me your phone.
A polite version would be, could I borrow your phone for a moment?
Nice. Next one. You're speaking too loudly.
I'm sorry, could you speak a little more quietly?
Perfect. Last one. I don't like your idea.
I see your idea. I think I have a different one.
Beautiful. Notice how the polite version respects the other person's feelings while still communicating the message.
Yes, and there's another polite strategy beginners can use, adding time softeners, like a moment, a second, when you have time. For example, could you help me becomes even softer when you say, could you help me when you have a moment?
Exactly. These tiny details make English conversations smooth and pleasant.
Let's give them a scenario. Imagine someone needs directions. The direct version might be, where is the bus station? But a polite version is, excuse me, could you tell me where the bus station is?
And notice, polite sentences often begin with, excuse me. It prepares the listener. It shows you respect their time and attention.
Yes, and sorry can also be used politely, not only for mistakes. For example, sorry, could I ask you something? It shows hesitation in a respectful way.
Another polite trick is asking before doing something. For example, is it okay if I sit here? Or, do you mind if I open the window? These questions show consideration.
And if someone asks you politely, you can answer politely too. For example, sure, go ahead, of course, no problem, feel free. These responses keep the polite tone flowing.
Let's create another short dialogue learners can reuse.
Excuse me, do you mind if I sit here?
No, not at all. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This is polite English at its simplest and best.
And we haven't even touched polite compliments yet. Compliments are a great way to start conversations politely. You can say, I like your jacket, or that's a nice idea, or you did a great job.
Yes, polite compliments make communication warm and friendly, but they should be simple and natural. No need for big words, just honest kindness.
Another point, polite conversations often avoid strong expressions. Instead of saying, I hate it, you can say, I don't really like it. Instead of, this is wrong, you can say, I think there might be a mistake.
Exactly. Soft language creates comfortable communication.
And polite English also includes polite silence, knowing when not to speak. Sometimes listening quietly is the politest choice.
That's true. Silence shows respect, especially when someone is emotional, stressed, or explaining something important.
There's also polite timing. For example, asking someone a question while they're busy can feel rude, but if you say, when you have a moment, it's polite and patient.
Let's do one more mini dialogue to practice polite timing.
Sorry, are you busy right now?
I have a minute. How can I help?
Could you check this for me?
Sure. Give me a moment.
Friendly, calm, polite. Learners can copy this right away. And I want to talk about polite endings again because ending a conversation well makes people remember you positively. You can say, "It was great talking to you," or "Thanks for your time," or "I hope we can talk again soon."
Yes, polite endings close the conversation like a soft door, not a loud one.
And I love that image, a soft door. Politeness is basically moving through conversations gently.
And every learner can practice this today. It doesn't require advanced vocabulary. It just takes awareness and kindness.
Let's continue building deeper examples in the next part because polite English has many layers, and we want to make sure learners understand all of them.
Absolutely. There's still a lot to explore. Polite corrections, polite offers, polite introductions, and more.
So let's keep going in part 3.
Yes, let's continue this journey.
You know, Leo, something interesting happened last night while I was out for dinner. I realized that polite conversation isn't just about words, it's about energy. The waiter came to our table, and even though he hardly said anything more than, "Good evening," and "How may I help you?" the way he said it made the whole atmosphere feel warm. It reminded me how tone can do half the job for you.
Exactly. People don't always remember the exact sentences you say, but they do remember how you made them feel. Sometimes a simple phrase like, "Sure, take your time," can sound rude if the tone is flat. But with a friendly tone, it suddenly feels supportive. That's why beginners in English should focus not only on vocabulary, but also on softness, pauses, and warmth.
Right, and beginners often worry too much about making a perfect sentence. They pause, they panic, they freeze. But polite conversation doesn't need perfection. It needs intention. Even saying something like, "Sorry, may I say that again?" in a calm voice can make the moment comfortable instead of awkward.
That's a great point. A lot of people fear sounding impolite just because they don't know advanced English. But politeness is simple. It's about kindness. And kindness doesn't need big grammar. You can sound respectful with very basic phrases, like, "Can I help you?" or "Would you like to go first?" These are super beginner friendly.
And you know what else is powerful? Adding small softeners. Little words like maybe, please, could, I think, I'm not sure. They make the conversation gentler. For example, instead of "move your bag," you can say, "Could you maybe move your bag, please?" Same message, totally different feeling.
Completely different. Softening language is almost like adding a cushion around your words. It protects the listener from feeling attacked or pressured. And when you use softeners, people naturally mirror your tone. They become calmer, friendlier, more open.
Yes, politeness creates more politeness. And something else I think is important. When someone speaks, especially in a language they're learning, giving them a moment to finish without interrupting is a huge sign of respect. Silence is not uncomfortable when it has kindness inside it.
Absolutely. Silence can actually be part of polite communication. A short pause before responding shows that you're listening, not rushing. Many learners feel pressure to answer instantly, but taking a breath makes your response clearer and more polite at the same time.
I also like using phrases that keep conversations soft and open. Things like, "What do you think?" or "If you don't mind me asking," or "Just to be sure." They show that you're inviting the other person into the conversation instead of pushing your own thoughts forward.
That's a great strategy. And here's another simple trick. Smile while speaking. Even if the listener can't see you, like on a phone call or even in a podcast, your voice sounds warmer when you smile. It's one of the easiest ways to sound polite without changing your vocabulary at all.
True, and sometimes politeness just means showing that you care. Asking questions like, "Is that okay with you?" or "Do you need anything?" can completely change the dynamic. People feel respected when you consider their comfort.
And something a lot of people forget, saying people's names politely, not overusing it, but placing it naturally, like, "Thank you, Sarah," or "I appreciate that, Leo." Names make the conversation feel human, not mechanical.
Yes, it makes the connection real. And speaking of real, learners should practice polite phrases regularly until they feel natural. Even rehearsing simple lines like, "Excuse me, sorry to interrupt, could you repeat that please?" can make real-life conversations so much easier.
And the best part is, politeness gives you time. When you use polite phrases, conversations slow down just enough for you to think. It removes pressure. It gives your brain space to choose the next word calmly.
Exactly, and good listeners always sound polite, even with basic English. Sometimes the politest thing you can say is a small, "I understand," "I get you," or "that makes sense." These tiny confirmations show engagement.
And they encourage the other person to continue speaking. Which brings us to the importance of not dominating the conversation. A polite speaker lets the other person shine too. A simple "go ahead" or "you can finish" keeps things balanced.
And one more thing I want learners to remember, polite conversations are not about being perfect. They're about being caring. If you speak slowly, softly, and honestly, even simple English sounds elegant.
Absolutely. And the more you practice, the more natural it feels. Good manners in English are like good manners in any language. People feel them.
And feeling understood is the heart of good communication.
Exactly. And there's another angle I want to talk about in the next part, the polite ways to disagree in English, because that's a big one.
Yes, that's a super important topic. Let's continue with that in part 4.
So, Sarah, before we ended the last part, I mentioned something that many learners struggle with, disagreeing politely in English. It's such a big part of real communication, but people often avoid it because they don't want to sound rude.
That's true. A lot of learners think disagreement automatically means conflict. But in English, disagreement can sound calm, soft, and respectful if you use the right phrases. And honestly, polite disagreement can even bring people closer because it shows honesty and trust.
Exactly. And the first thing people should know is that disagreement doesn't have to start with no. It can start with something softer, like, "I see your point," or "I understand what you mean," before sharing a different view. That little moment of recognition keeps everything friendly.
Yes, because when you show someone you understand them, they don't feel attacked. It creates space for a different opinion without tension. Even something like, "That's interesting," works beautifully before you share your own thought.
And then you can add gentle phrases like, "but I think," or "but maybe," or "I'm not sure I agree, but..." These small phrases keep everything polite while still allowing you to express your idea.
Absolutely. I love using "maybe we could look at it another way." It's such a soft, friendly way to introduce a different perspective. It doesn't close the conversation, it opens it.
And it shows collaboration instead of competition. That's key. When disagreement feels like teamwork, it's never rude. And another great one is, "I see why you feel that way." That sentence alone can prevent 90% of misunderstandings.
That's a powerful one. And I think learners should practice these soft starters because when you memorize a few polite disagreement phrases, you never freeze during real conversations. You always have something respectful to say.
Exactly. And for beginner levels, simple lines work perfectly. Things like, "I don't think so, but I understand you," or "maybe not, but thank you for explaining." These are easy, but still sound thoughtful and polite.
And here's something important. Your voice matters as much as your words. A gentle tone can make even a strong disagreement sound kind. You can say the exact same sentence in two tones and get two completely different reactions.
That's so true. Tone carries intention, and speaking slowly helps too. Fast speech can sound aggressive, even when the words are polite. Slow speech gives your message softness.
And learners should remember that in English-speaking cultures, it's normal to disagree respectfully. It's not rude. What feels rude is when the disagreement is too direct. But when you add softeners, the conversation stays warm.
Right. And another trick is asking a question instead of making a statement. For example, instead of "you're wrong," you can ask, "Do you think there could be another way?" It's a polite way to show a different idea without putting the other person down.
Yes, questions create dialogue. They show that both people are exploring the idea together. And this makes the conversation smoother and friendlier.
And you know what else? A polite disagreement often includes a small moment of appreciation. Like, "I appreciate your point, but," or "That's a good idea, but I think." Appreciation softens everything.
It really does. Appreciation shows that the conversation is about ideas, not ego. And that's the heart of politeness. The conversation becomes about understanding each other, not winning.
And Leo's AI phrase is that misunderstandings drop dramatically when you focus on connection instead of correction. People feel safe, and when people feel safe, they listen more openly.
Exactly. And I think we should also remind learners that it's okay to take a moment before disagreeing. Even a short pause like, "Let me think," keeps the tone gentle and shows that you're considering the other person's words.
Yes, that pause can be incredibly polite. It shows respect for the conversation and gives you time to choose softer words.
And sometimes the best way to disagree politely is to look for something small you can agree with first. Like, "I agree with this part, but I'm not sure about the rest." It shows fairness and balance.
That's a great technique. It builds trust and keeps the conversation friendly. And it also teaches learners to focus on shared understanding, not just the differences.
Politeness is basically care in action, and disagreement is just another opportunity to show that care.
Exactly. And in the next part, I want to explore something that goes hand in hand with polite disagreement: the art of giving polite suggestions. Because suggestions can sound rude if you don't phrase them well.
That's a great topic. Let's continue with that in part 5. So, Leo, you mentioned something really important: giving polite suggestions. And honestly, this is an area where learners accidentally sound too direct, even when they don't mean to. A simple suggestion can sound like an order if the phrasing isn't soft enough.
Exactly. And that's because suggestions in English rely a lot on indirect language. Instead of "do this," polite speech uses softer phrases like "maybe you could," or "it might be better if." These small adjustments change the whole mood of the conversation.
Yes, because when you say, "maybe you could," it shows that you're not forcing your idea, you're just offering it. And people respond so much better when they feel they have a choice. Politeness gives people freedom.
That's beautifully said. And also, using would and could makes suggestions sound friendly. For example, "you could try" sounds helpful, while "try this" sounds like a command. Same meaning, different impact.
And beginners can use super simple structures, something like "maybe try," or "you could use," or even "what about?" These are short, easy, and very natural for polite conversations. You don't need complex grammar to sound respectful.
And I love using "if you want" at the beginning of a suggestion. It puts all the control in the hands of the listener. Like, "if you want, you could check this out." It's relaxed, friendly, and very soft.
Yes, and it avoids sounding pushy. Another phrase that works really well is "you might find it helpful to." It makes the suggestion feel like a tip, not an instruction.
And when you add a reason at the end, it becomes even more polite. Something like,
You could try taking notes because it helps remember new words. The reason shows that you're trying to help, not control.
And tone matters so much. If you say even the softest phrase with a sharp tone, it doesn't sound polite anymore. But if your voice is calm and warm, the listener feels comfortable.
Exactly. And polite suggestions work best when the other person feels respected. That's why I often start with curiosity instead of certainty. Like, have you thought about... It invites the person to explore the idea together instead of following instructions.
I love that. Suggestions become a conversation, not a direction. And it shows humility too. Like, you're not saying, I know better. You're saying, let's think together. That's a big part of polite communication.
And another good one is, maybe we could try... It makes the suggestion feel like teamwork. Politeness often comes from making the other person feel included.
Yes, because politeness is relational. It's not just about nice words, it's about building connection. Even small phrases like, if it's okay with you, or only if you want to, show that you care about the other person's comfort.
And sometimes the most polite suggestion is the one that makes space for refusal. Something like, if not, that's totally fine. It shows respect for their choice. People feel safe when they know saying no is allowed.
That's true. And polite suggestions don't interrupt someone's autonomy. Instead, they support it. It's one of the best communication skills a learner can develop.
And polite suggestion making actually helps learners feel more confident. When you know how to soften your words, you don't worry about sounding rude. You feel more in control.
Yes, because you feel like you can express yourself without hurting anyone. It gives you freedom to speak more and participate in conversations more actively.
And polite suggestions become super useful in daily life, at work, with friends, even with strangers. It's one of those skills that you'll use everywhere all the time.
Absolutely. And speaking of daily life, there's another area learners often find tricky: giving polite advice. It's similar to suggestions, but it's usually more personal, and that requires even more softness.
That's a great topic. Advice can feel sensitive, so politeness is crucial. Let's dive into that in the next part.
Yes, let's continue with that in part 6. So, Leo, we were about to get into something a little more delicate: giving polite advice. And honestly, this is a big challenge for learners because advice can easily sound too direct even when they're trying to help.
Definitely. Advice touches personal space, so the language has to be extra gentle. The moment you say something like, you should do this, it can feel like you're controlling the other person, but with softer phrases, advice becomes supportive instead of pushy.
Yes, like starting with, maybe you could, or it might help if. These are calm, friendly ways to share advice without sounding like you're telling someone what to do.
And a really warm version is, you might feel better if, because it focuses on the person's benefit, not on your opinion. Advice sounds much kinder when it shows care.
I also like using, if I were you, I'd probably. It's polite because it talks about your experience, not their mistakes. It gives space instead of pressure.
Exactly. It shifts the tone from, I know better than you, to, here's just something that might help. And that's the heart of polite communication. It's respectful, not controlling.
And tone is everything. Even good advice can become uncomfortable if it's said sharply. But if your voice is relaxed and your pace is slow, the same advice feels caring.
And it helps when you add a soft ending like, but of course, it's your choice, or only if it feels right for you. These endings show that you respect their freedom.
Yes, that's important. Polite advice always leaves the final decision to the other person. It's like offering a hand, not pulling someone by the arm.
And sometimes the best advice is simply listening first. When someone feels understood, they're more open to gentle suggestions. Listening is one of the most polite things you can do in any language.
Exactly. And I think this whole conversation about polite phrases, tone, softeners, suggestions, disagreement, and advice shows something really powerful. You don't need perfect English to be polite. You just need awareness and kindness.
Absolutely. Politeness isn't about fancy grammar. It's about respect. Even the simplest sentences can sound warm when you use the right tone, the right small words, and the right intention.
And honestly, polite conversations make learning easier too. When you speak kindly, people respond kindly. They give you time, patience, and space to find your words.
Yes, politeness makes communication safe. And when communication feels safe, confidence grows faster. You don't worry about mistakes as much because the atmosphere is friendly.
And we hope this whole episode helps listeners feel more confident about speaking politely in English, even at A1 or A2 levels. These skills are simple, but they make a big difference.
And the more you practice them, the more natural they become. Your English won't just improve, your connections with people will improve too.
And that's the real goal of communication: connection.
Exactly.
And with that, I think this is a good moment to close the episode.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to the English Fluency Podcast. We hope these tips help you feel more confident, more polite, and more comfortable in your English conversations.
Keep practicing, keep speaking, and remember, small, polite words can make a big difference.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care, everyone.
Bye for now.